are live. Maddox,
Hey, what's going on?
welcome, sir. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, man. Let me set this up so I can look like I'm looking at you. There we go. A little
No
bit
worries, man.
better. Yeah, what's going on?
So again, man, thank you for taking the time. I think these things are always super cool for me because I don't mean to sound pretentious, but I had never heard of you guys before this, and so I spent some time listening to your music, and you guys have great stuff, man. And this is what's one of the things that's the coolest. Like I said, for me about this is learning about new bands that I might not have otherwise taken the time to listen to. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we've kind of slipped under the radar for a few years. You know what I mean?
yeah, so I love the cover you guys did of "Cuts Like a Knife," the Bryan Adams song, but that song "Simple Man" was really stood out to me too. And when I first saw the title, I was like, oh, it's probably a Skinner cover. I'm sure you guys get that a lot, but it's a great
Yeah.
song. Um,
Thank you. Did you hear the acoustic version of it as well?
I did. I
Yeah.
listened to the album that you guys put out in
Oh,
2018.
perfect. Yeah.
So, so I guess one of the things I like to do is just start out by telling your origin story a little bit, like how the band got together, what got you into music, all that kind of stuff. Is go as deep as you want to go.
Okay. All right. How much time you got? Yeah.
We got plenty. We got plenty.
We
All the
have
time you need.
pretty, serendipitous story, just kind of how the universe brought us together as a group and how we've evolved to where we are now. A lot of serendipity, but that's how I know that we're on the right path for sure. But
Mhm.
originally, our drummer Kenny, who's from Canada, uh, he was actually like on a road trip across country, and he ran out of gas in Dallas. And to quote him, he would say, "I just dug in like a tick." And he started playing in some bands around Dallas, and kind of got a reputation for himself. And Derek, he was in a band in the late '90s, early 2000s called July Alley, and they actually got signed by uh, Columbia Music Group or Sony. I can't remember which one it was first. It was the one and then the other. But by Nick Terzo, the same guy who signed Alice in Chains at the same kind of
Oh
the same
wow.
time. And they ended up going into the studio, signing a big record deal, got advances, limos, strippers, staying out in LA, the full like,
The good stuff.
last end of the music business kind of industry stuff. And They were going to have to change their name to Flackjack, and that was fine. They were cool with that. They did a record with uh gosh, what was this? As a famous producer, but at the time nobody had heard of him. But now he's like, oh my god, that guy! I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it'll come to me. Uh, but then Nick said, "Hey man, I'm leaving. I'm going over to. I think he said he was going over to Sony, and do you guys want to come with me? And if not, you're welcome to stay here." And they said, "Oh man, they're treating us good. We're just going to stay here." And as soon as Nick left, anything that Nick was doing immediately got shelved because they didn't want to pay him on it, obviously. And
Mhm.
their band was real similar to Alice in Chains, and they already had an Alice in Chains. So at the time, they got shelved, and that was kind of the end of that whole ordeal. And then I was in another band. I've been in several bands around the Dallas Fort Worth area, but I was in a
Mhm.
band that also had a singer, my best friend at the time, who uh, ended up on the same reality TV shows as Kenny. Kenny and the singer in my band, Coomer, they were on a reality show called I Love Money. No, sorry, Daisy of Love first. Then they were on I Love Money. Daisy of Love. I don't know if you remember those VH1 days, but
I
uh,
do.
so remember Daisy, she was a cast off from I think Brett Michaels' Rock of Love thing, and then she
Okay.
got her spin off,
Yeah.
Daisy of Love. And they had a casting here in Dallas, and at the time, myself and my singer, we were working dancing at La Bear's as male dancers, and kind of, hey, you should go to this casting thing. And he ended up getting picked for it, and I was like a standby, and then Kenny ended up getting picked for it. So you fast forward through the reality TV show. Well, post reality TV show, uh, we were getting booked, or Coomer was getting booked, and Kenny was getting booked to do appearances at these ultra lounges where we just go. They'd pay us like $5,000 to stand behind a velvet rope and drink bottles of Grey Goose and and party.
That's
And
the
so we
life.
just got to know, and I got to know Kenny and some of those guys through then. And then uh at one point, I think just through all the partying, everything, I just had decided I was going to be done with music and just give up music altogether. And I was just doing hair. I was a hairdresser. I'd done hair for
Dope.
20 years, and I was just focusing on doing hair. But I realized that when I had quit music, that there went my friends. I had no friends. It's kind of sad to say, but I had seen one evening that Kenny and the guys were uh, playing in their band down the road from my house, and I just said, "Well, shit, I'm just going to go down there and hang out." And I had no friends. I'm going to go hang out. These guys were cool, so I went to their show, and I'm watching their show, and I'm like, uh, you guys, I'm like, you guys are pretty good. Y'all should add another guitar player. If you want to add another guitar player, give me a call. And they said, yeah, come on down. We'd love to have that. And there was like a party the next day at Kenny's famous compound, which is still his famous compound where he still lives in the Cedars in Deep Ellum. And went there, and we're having one of his, famous parties, and they go on for days. And they all walk in, and they said, you know, we broke the band up. The bass player quit the band last night. It's over with. You know what I mean? So I'm like, well, I'll play bass. I just looked at him, so I'll play bass. You know what I mean? I'll do it. And they just kind of like laughed it off, whatever. But then I ended up actually, playing bass, and then so the idea, the original incarnation of Messer, which was myself, our former guitar player Javier, who's not with the band any longer. The pandemic rearranged a lot of people's lives. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but we wish him the best. But and then of course Derek, and then we caught the attention of my best friend, my buddy Chad Gendison out in L.A., who we ultimately co-wrote our debut album with, and he obviously produced it and is essentially my business partner now. Mad Pants Records. It's Maddox and Pants Magic. That's Chad and I. But we had some songs that we had written on our own, but we'd never been, we never conceived anything like Messer before in our music careers. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
but we just took an opportunity. It was a weird time in the music business where there was no infrastructure. It was the very early stages of the rebirth of the industry, and I talk a lot on this. I'll try to briefly give you this synopsis here, but the life of the music industry, as we know, it started with Elvis and ended with Nirvana, right? So it
I like
started
that.
over, right? It started over right after Nirvana, and then now here we are, only 2023. So if you were to like draw a timeline from like 2000 to 2023, and the timeline from the 1950s of Elvis to not the 1990s, we're essentially in the early stages of the rebirth of the music business. But back up closer to like 2006, 2007, 2008, there was nothing. There was a lot of like DIY. There was no websites. There was nobody knew. You know what I mean? YouTube
Yeah.
had barely. I don't think YouTube was on the air yet. You know what I mean? So
It was there, but it wasn't prevalent yet.
yeah, nobody knew. So there was no infrastructure. So we saw that as hey man, there's nobody around. We could do whatever we want to do. There are no rules. You know what I mean? The rule
Mhm.
makers are, essentially gone. So like the cat's away, the mice will play. So we just thought, well, what would a record label do if we got signed today? Well, we would get some good songs, we would develop ourselves, we would create an image, we would get branding, we would do all this stuff. So we hid away for 5 years in our studio here in Fort Worth, for 5 years crafting, coming up with the logo, the emblem that we call, I don't know where that is there. When all of that stuff we knew was like, oh, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it one time, you know, right. We weren't boys anymore. We were men at this point. So we
Mhm.
approached it from that perspective, and we're just making shit up as we go. But we managed to, just by either uh, not giving up, I guess maybe by virtue of just not giving up, or just outlast. It's hard. It's not. This is not. It's not. It takes a lot of, not just time. It takes a lot of money and resources and things that we've just been very blessed to have. But we've never been like a band. We're not frivolous. We're like, we want to be frugal because we want to ultimately have longevity in this industry. And we feel like now we're 10, 11 years into this process where still figuring it all out, but I feel like we're starting to have, excuse me, we're starting to have a little bit of traction, a little bit of like, okay, we might actually could have a career at this beyond just, post pre-pandemic. I mean, like I said, the pandemic really kind of fucked a lot of shit for all artists, not just independent artists, but
Hmm.
specifically rock music is really suffering. It
Can't do
is,
live.
yeah, it's suffering. So, um, you know, we love writing songs that empower people. We're really strong into just the power of positivity and having music saved me. It's keeping me alive. It's keeping my daughter, my whole family. I mean, all of this is all about, uh, you know, I guess the craft and art of songwriting. Um, I heard this over the weekend. I was just in Dublin doing a songwriter camp with Zach Malloy from the Nixons and a few other artists
Oh wow.
from here. But one of the guys, I'll tell you more about this charity that I'm involved in because I'm real honored to be a part of it. I want to spread this message as well. But
Hmm.
um, I can take, if I have my back hurts, right? I can take an aspirin or Tylenol and it helps me, right? But it does
Hmm.
nothing for you. But if I could take maybe the, you know, uh, pages from my life or any of the guys that we can write a song, that helps us, and then you hear it, then that song could potentially help you and somebody else and somebody else. And so that's really the main motivation behind all of our songwriting. Obviously, cuts like a knife. This is just a fun song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're fun dudes. We like to have fun. We don't take ourselves that serious, but um, you know, uh, you'll notice if you dig into our songs, they're really about like empowering you, overcoming something, fight of my life, make your life worth fighting for.
Was it Save Myself? Is
Save Myself was a song that really touched about um, domestic violence, and not so much the physical domestic violence, but the emotional domestic violence, and we wanted to kind of spread light to know. So often, in this, in our male centric world, it's always like the male is always the aggressor and the female is always, the victim. But that's not always the case,
yeah.
especially with emotional abuse. We've all had, that girlfriend who went through your phone, who's always accused you of. I mean, it can really play on not just on anybody's psyche. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
that song was really about like, hey, get out of that toxic relationship. You're worth more. Save yourself and move on because there's more to life than that. So uh,
I
that
go
was a real
right to a
fun song to
band's
do.
I go right to band Spotify just to see what they're, what's popular. And that song has well over 1 million plays. So, I mean, you guys are obviously catching
That
someone's
song
attention.
resonated with a lot more people than we had anticipated. Um, because like if you think about like even like Simple Man, which technically if we're doing charts, which I don't really care about charts. I don't have no ego about that, but that was like our highest charting as far as radio
Hmm.
song. But Save Myself seemed to really connect just on its own organically through the streaming platform, and it's one of our most streamed songs to date for sure.
That's awesome. You guys are based in Fort Worth. I've talked to so many musicians from that area lately. I just talked to the former drummer of Typo Negative yesterday,
Oh,
Kenny, or not Kenny, sorry, Johnny, Johnny Kelly
yeah,
and he plays with a bunch of other bands, Quiet Riot and stuff. But it
yeah.
seems like there's a lot of like really awesome. Seems like there's an awesome music scene in Dallas.
There is unfortunately a lot of Dallas, Fort Worth Metroplex. We're one of the largest markets for tribute bands, and we have some of the, most successful tribute acts. Which, you know, whatever. I was joking the other day. I was like, I'm going to start a Messer tribute band just so I can get booked in my own hometown. Uh, all original members. But yeah, you know what though, Fort Worth, and Dallas. Really, there's a lot not just in rock music. I do a lot with Texas country. And I do a lot with,
Yeah.
what we call it outlaw country, red dirt country. I write and,
Mhm.
and record and work with a lot of those artists. But, Leon Bridges really brought a lot of highlight
Oh my
to,
god. I
um,
love Krungbin
yeah,
so much. That's like one of my favorite bands, and the stuff that Leon did with them is like, oh,
yeah.
top tier.
Yeah, so I mean, I actually live across the street from where the venue is. It's no longer there thanks to gentrification, but the Grotto. But it was my I'm sober now, but when I was drinking, that was my home bar, and I would go in there on a Wednesday night, and Leon and Jeff Daisy, those guys would just be in there working
Wow.
out songs off that debut album, working them out, just testing them out, and it was so magical to see and hear how that thing came to life, and he's had so much success, and it's really brought a lot of highlight. I mean, you think about Erica Badu's from here.
I didn't know
You
that.
have
That's
you had
crazy.
obviously the Toadies. I mean,
Pantera,
Pan
one of my
Pan
favorite
fucking
bands of all
Terra,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I got my Pantera beer. I went. Did you go see the concert?
I couldn't afford it, so I'm gonna have to get it was Metallica and Pantera here in LA
Yeah,
at the SoFi Stadium too. So I was kind of like, I don't know if I
yeah.
want to go to like be in the like way out in the rafters. I might wait till they come back through with like Lamb of God or something.
Yeah, that would be the show to go to for sure. Fortunately, I'm actually good friends with one of the guitar player for Wolfgang, and
Okay, I know
so
them too.
I got hooked up with his guitar players from Texas here, Jonathan Jordan.
I
He
just talked to
also played with.
Drowning Pool too. CJ
Oh yeah,
Pierce,
love CJ. He's good friends,
coolest
good
guy.
people, super cool dude. I got a great story about CJ too. Yeah, he's family. We've all grown up together in Dallas, and so we've known Dave and all. Rest in peace. And but yeah, we could go on and on and on and talk about that stuff. But the Pantera show, I got real lucky. I was right, front on the floor, and
How was it?
uh, I mean, I have really close ties and to the family. We have
Yeah,
a lot of tie. Our band is connected. We're all connected here, and so. Uh, no judgment from my part. I just wanted to go and just enjoy it. And what I really took away from it, I found myself watching the kids in the audience on the floor losing their mind to those songs,
yeah,
and that filled me up more than anything. Was just there's a whole other generation of kids that are gonna get to feel that energy. And of course, we've toured with Black Label Society. We spent uh, 45 days on the road with them in Canada several years back,
wow,
and got to know Zach Wild really well. And there was no other person for that. Now there are, and where I'm at right now, I'm at my studio, and there's 80 fucking bands in the studio. I can open my door and I can find 5 dudes that could have done that job note for note for note for note for note. Okay.
yeah,
No bullshit. My guitar player is a guitar player in one of the best Pantera tribute acts here in Dallas Fort Worth. He grew up with Dimebag, but that wasn't the point. The point is Zach was bringing Zach to the table there. So did he
right,
play them note for note? No, he played them like Zach. You know what I
yeah.
mean? But he handled it with care.
I also feel like as a longtime Pantera fan, some Dime would be honored to have Zach in that seat for him.
1,000%. And of course, Charlie does a tremendous job for Vinny. Like I said, I know a lot of darker, like stuff that's not really public about a lot of Pantera history, and
Yeah,
thank God that Rita is keeping Dime's life alive, and hopefully um, they'll continue doing these Pantera shows, at least beyond this Metallica thing, and more and more people will get to experience. I know that Rita has launching Dime guitars. She finally owns the rights to all that stuff, and they're not making them here in Arlington, Texas, but they're assembling them and being based here. Uh, James, her nephew, they're running that company, so they're out there on the road in the Dime. I guess it says Dime Guitars on it now, but the tour bus and following around all the Pantera stuff, and so it's great. It's just great to see, like I said, the younger generation get involved in Pantera. So I'm excited for that.
yeah, yeah. It's amazing. I have a son who's 17 and he's a
Yeah,
huge metal kid, and for him to he actually went he didn't get to see Pantera, but he went to Metallica with Five Finger Death Punch with a bunch of his
right.
friends. So
So you're in LA then, right?
yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we played. I think we played the theater there off of uh, Skid Row. What's that theater
Oh,
downtown?
I've
Um,
it's either 1720 or I saw Norma Jean there.
yeah,
It's not Belasco, is it?
I can't remember what it was called. This was back we were out with Scott Stapp. I think we played it with Scott Stapp, or did we play that one with Red? I can't remember, but that's the only time we ever played in LA. Other than like we've played like the Mint, we've played
Okay.
the Viper Room a couple of times.
They're closing that.
Ironically, I know, I know. So our producer lives in Silver Lake, Chad. He's in
Okay.
Silver Lake. So like all our vocals and a lot of our tracking, we did at Silver Lake. Our drums, we did at East West Studios there. We did a lot of that debut album there in LA at a time when nobody was making albums like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But now we kind of split between Chad's studio in Silver Lake and my studio here in Fort Worth. For like the Cuts Like a Knife, we did all of that here in Fort Worth, and I flew Chad out here, and for the vocals because he's a most amazing vocal producer in the world. He's really, you know, got to credit him. I mean, Derek sounds like a real singer because he's been through that process with Chad, and it's been an amazing transformation to see it happen too.
All your stuff sounds great. I mean, I listened to like a bunch of the top tracks, and then
Sure.
the album, the 2018 album. So
Yeah, Ben Gross at the mix room in Burbank mixed all of that, and we went to Ben specifically because we liked the work that he did on the Seven Dust album with the drum sound, and that was our recipe from day one. Tell you, going back to like the origin story, like when we finished recording that album, we're like, uh, man, how do we get somebody to make? Like, if we could have anybody mix, let's make a wish list. And we're like, I would love to have like, Chris Lord Alge or Ben Gross. So we had all these names. And we're like, but how do we get to them? You know what I mean? And it was just like with our artwork, we had reached out to this guy who did like Five Finger Death Punch and Journey and just a bunch of big people's names artwork just on a whim. And just said, would you take us on? And he said, you know what? I'll take you guys on because he heard our story. And so based off of that, we just said, let's just send him a fucking email. Let's just reach out to him on Facebook and just see if he'll respond. And of course, Ben got right back to us. He says, yep, here's the process. Here's my agent, blah, blah, blah. So, all right, great. At least he's going to, entertain the idea. And we went to that doorway and they said, what's going to be this big hard number? And I'm just like, that's a lot. And I'm just like, hey, would you take a meeting? You know what I mean? Like, I'll fly to Burbank. I'll bring you the files. You listen to the songs, take a meeting with me and Chad, and then tell me if you'll mix it or not. And we went in and we got 2-3 songs in, and he stops it and he goes, okay, I'm going to mix this whole record. I'm going to do it for this number. And it was like a fraction of what a major label. We didn't have a major label budget. You know what I mean? We had a independent band budget, and he was willing to work with. He took a chance on us. He was willing to work with us, and he did that on a dime. And like I said, as long as I'm making music, I'm still going to that same formula to do it. And in fact, we were the very first band who's ever mixed their whole entire back catalog of every song in Dolby Atmos at that studio. They are one of the first studios in LA to have a Dolby Atmos mix room, and part of what we do at Messer was really a metaphor for like our music being cutting edge and razor sharp, because it does mean knife. And so we're going to be, if I think the first band, definitely in Dallas Fort Worth, maybe in Texas, heck, I don't know, to release their whole back catalog in Dolby Atmos and spatial audio.
Oh wow.
Which most people are like, oh, what is that? You know what I mean? But it's something that has been in the works for over a decade. But that Sphere in Vegas that they're building is the world's first Dolby Atmos purpose-built event complex specifically for live concert events in this Dolby Atmos all-encompassing audio kind of thing. And the automotive industry has already done deals where they're going to be I think Mercedes is going to have the first Dolby Atmos enabled car audio system coming out in the next year or so. And then it's going to be everywhere, sound bars, everywhere you go. Essentially, all the editorial playlisting on iTunes and Amazon and Spotify are only going to be editorial playlisting songs that have a spatial audio Dolby Atmos file with it. So we even beat Brian Adams to the punch. His song's not in Dolby Atmos.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean? So If you haven't had a chance to, if you don't have the ability to have right now, the only way you can technically listen to it is with like the Apple or any Dolby Atmos enabled headphones. You're getting the I guess the recreated version of it, but in the actual Dolby Atmos studio, I'll explain it to you. There's basic studios have left and right fields. This has 9 points of speakers. So you have left, right, you have center, then you have another layer of speakers up here, top, left, right, center, side, side, back, 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 back. So it's like 9 speakers, and it's essentially like having your head in a box, and the speakers are all around you, and the sound can go any which way, however you want it to go inside of there. Now, the point is not to make shit just fly all over the place and have you just doing all this, but in movies and in video games and other things, that's going to be a really cool effect when you see something, your head does that, you know. But with music, it just makes you sound like you're in the music. It's just bigger, wider, deeper. There's height to it.
It's like three-dimensional.
It's very three-dimensional, and one of the ways we utilized it was like on snare reverb. So a snare, you'd hear it, it'd slap you in the face, but then you hear all this reverb just coming around you. You know, so it's really cool to go back and dig into, well, like the ballads, for instance, on that debut album, Lay Down Your Heart One More Time. We did completely bonus. These are bonus tracks. We stripped away all the heavy guitars and drums and did uh, symphonic instrumental mixes that are real. Where we brought the symphony orchestra up. We used a 60-piece orchestra on Lay Down Your Heart.
Wow.
That's a real orchestra that we did at East West Studios, and we went all out for that. So it sounds amazing in Dolby Atmos, and so that's going to be coming soon. We're going to waterfall all that stuff out, probably through the next 6 months or so. But that was just kind of like a bonus thing that I was like, we're gonna go back and redo all this stuff, and it sounds amazing. So I'm excited for it.
It's interesting to hear that stuff is taking off. Have you ever heard of Pono?
Pono.
So
Pono.
I had this crazy chance encounter at a bar one night a couple of years ago, and I sat next to this guy. This guy had like dreadlocks, and I started talking to him. Turns out he's Neil Young and Daryl Hannah's like personal assistant. And
Okay.
I guess he was telling me that Neil Young has this high definition audio player called Pono.
Okay. I have heard of Neil Young's deal because I'm into lossless audio, like our files are like high resolution. And I have heard, I didn't realize it was called Pono. I thought it was called something completely different, but Sono or Sono or Pono. That's awesome.
But it's weird because I mean the way he described, I haven't even really listened to anything on it, and he told me there's only like so many albums that are mixed for it. But he was like, you can like literally hear like the strings being pressed down. It's like so crystal clear. But what you're describing sounds much more interesting. It's almost like a better version of surround sound.
It is a better version of surround sound, and I will touch on like the high resolution stuff because, like I said, this goes real technical, but this is what makes Messer sound the way that it sounds. Is the fact this is the shit that we're thinking of. But we recorded that debut album at 192, which is super high resolution. Most radio stuff gets dwindled down to 44.1 or 48, and sorry, we do this. And our idea is that we knew that through dithering, through different streaming platforms, different compression algorithms, Bluetooth is the worst. Like I can't even listen to. It's hard for me to listen to Bluetooth because I can hear the holes in the music. You know what I mean? I can hear it, the gaps, and so
missing frequencies.
Yeah, and they're missing frequencies, and they're just missing all kinds of information. And when we did our album, we wanted to do it at the highest resolution possible so that when we were dithered down, we still sound and look, as glossy as we possibly can. And we took that one step further because we developed one of the things that we did when we came out of the womb, if you will, is we wanted to come out of the womb fully developed. We didn't want to come out of the womb and have like a hodgepodge of like, what is our sound? So we built our live sound. And we were one of the very first bands to do. Now everybody has it, but we were doing this 11 years ago, building our live rig before X32 digital consoles were even a thing. They weren't even available in the market. We were actually using all analog gear to do this in the early days, but we were doing it in 96K. So we were one of the first bands to roll around and do their live show in 96K. Nobody heard of 96K audio. And let me tell you, the very first time we ever did it in our studio, where we fired it up the rig for the first time, and we're all gonna, you're right. You even breathe on the guitar strings, you hear it. You know what I mean? Uh, so yeah, you fart, it's going to be heard in that, because that's the level of high definition. What that forced us to do was to become better musicians, because now we're really hearing ourselves, and we
Mm-hmm.
really focused in on a lot of details in our sound. Um, we were one of these first modern bands where everybody's playing in ears, and everybody's got, everybody's listening to a click, so that, when our real thought process was this, is we were really trying to weaponize our sound, specifically in the live um, performance aspect, because we wanted our songs to be effective. We were taking a page out of the worship, out of the church bands here, and using the good tunings. None of our songs are in standard tunings. You can't play any Messer song in a standard tuning. They're all in sacred tunings, and it's done very specifically and by design. Um,
That's
which
cool.
is also one of the reasons why we use a lot of the technology we use with their guitars, because we do have so many tunings. The way we pull that off live is with a digital modeler that's retuning all the guitars. So otherwise, we would have to have 30 guitars on stage, which we did in the early days. We toured with 30 fucking guitars and had all these
Wow.
guitar changes, and then the technology got better, and we started using these shurikens that my buddy from 12 Foot Ninja had made out of Australia, and they used the Line 6 technology with the guitar that is actually a good guitar, that you can actually
Mm-hmm.
play. And
So does it just reprocess the signal at the tuning you want, or how does that work?
yeah, it does it. It does it at the pickup of the guitar, so it's happening on the guitar, as opposed to like a tuning pedal, which is taking all of the frequencies and trying to pitch them. This is pitching each one at a time, and you can go in and make custom tunings.
Oh,
Let's say
dope.
you want to have a part in a song where you just want to just slam the guitar, but you only want to hear two strings. You can turn all the strings off except the two strings you want to hear.
Wow.
So from a performance standpoint, you could just be doing this and only two strings are being heard if you wanted to. So
That's super cool.
yeah, it's very cool. Of course, we don't have any pedal boards, all that stuff. We spent years programming and automating. Myself and my engineer Nick, we built an elaborate program that does not just our clicks, but like I said, our clicks. For instance, explaining this to I speak a lot on this with a lot of bands who are new to this, but um, before traditionally, uh, a band had to have a drummer. Maybe the drummer was listening to a click, right? And then he had to interpret that click into his performance and play it. That's latency number one. His brain going, "Oh, I hear a click. This is my interpretation of it." Then I
Mm-hmm.
had to hear, as a other guitar player or musician on stage, either directly right off the stage or through my monitor, which is another point of latency, his interpretation. Then I have to put my interpretation to it. So by the time it comes out the speakers, the mains to the audience, it's fuzzy. I don't give a shit how tight of a musician you are. It's going to be a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah.
But if we're all listening to the click and we're all aiming for the same point in time and space, when it gets there, it's fucking razor sharp and
Yeah. That
dead
makes a
nuts
lot of
tight.
sense.
And when you're trying to create sound design, because that's how we visualize our sound. They're not like traditional riffage all over the place. It's a sound design. There's a lot of stuff going on in the music beds that we're performing and playing and on the record, and we want those to be effective, and be felt, to get the goosebumps and get the
Yeah,
watery
yeah.
eyes and all that stuff. And so all of that is by design. And as uh, as performers, the guys in this band, myself, Bobby, Kenny, Derek, we know that when we're performing, our goal as a musician is, and our purpose is to take what we feel inside, right, our physical electronic thoughts and process, and put them into a performance and have intention go behind it. But when they come out, you know what I mean, and hit the audience, you know, we're essentially crossing streams. It's like that Ghostbusters thing, you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
we all have the same intent behind every single note that is. There's no notes that are just happenstance. purpose behind every single one of them. And that's been fun in and of itself just to learn that process. It's been a journey, but we've got it down now for sure.
Yeah, that's what makes bands great too. Is it's like that combined energy, those different energies. It's like when I listen to a band like Jane's Addiction or
Oh,
Led Zeppelin, it's like the energies of Perry Farrell and Dave Navarro together. I mean, Perry's great on his own. Dave does cool stuff on his own, but them together is like something
precisely,
unimaginable.
precisely. Um, we make a point before every time we step on stage to make sure that we're recognizing what we're there to do, and that we're coming there to do it together as a team. And uh, I think that's I think that's what I credit a lot of the success that we have had is when we do get in front of fans, in front of people, strangers. I love a room full of strangers. We knock them all down every single time, and it's fun. There's never been a show where we have. I mean, I watch somebody cry every night. You know what I mean? And
That's
I'm
awesome.
crying every night. You know what I'm saying? If I'm not crying every night, I'm not doing my job right. But um, we have a lot of videos. Like we have this guy. We were in Florida, big tough Florida guy, just lost it and on his knees, just had a moment and just lost it. And his
That's
friends are
so
having to
cool.
pick him up, and it's just like, yes, that's exactly. That's I'm not trying to make you cry, but I'm trying to make you feel and process some shit. And if we did that, then we did our job.
I'm one of those people. I'm very emotive like that. I get that from my dad. Like, me and my sister will sit and cry during a movie trailer. Like if
Yeah,
something affects me, I'm not afraid
yeah,
to
Pixar
let it.
movies.
Yeah, yeah. It's like just the tiniest thing. Sometimes I just went this past weekend and saw this band called Beats Antique with my friend and his wife in Portland, and it was like a spiritual experience. It was like in the woods, and they had like belly dancers and these
Oh,
like crazy synchronized drums. And at the end, it started raining. It was like
oh,
an outdoor show. Like it started lightning, thundering, and I was like, "Whoa!" They just like
just
called down a storm.
over the top. Yeah,
Yeah, like that. You gotta love that kind of
I
energy.
I love that. I just got back from Ireland this last week, and I got the honor to. I also participate in a nonprofit charity called Operation Rock the Troops, and
Okay.
we've had the privilege to travel all over the world with 40 military bases, over 1,000 shows, performing for men and women of the armed forces, and
That's awesome.
had a great a lot of great experiences doing that. But there's no real wars going on right now, and a lot of times, unfortunately, when there are no wars going on, we don't think about the soldiers, after they've returned home. And one of the things that we've done, Operation Rock the Troops, is we've kind of shifted our energy and focus to helping soldiers who have returned home and are having a hard time coping with adjusting and are
Mhm.
suffering from various PTSDs from their wounds. And we started this project that's also being filmed for. Right, currently, it's going to be on like a country music network, but we're hoping to get it to Netflix at some point. But it's called Highway Home, and we just got to do the second season or episode. I don't know, I guess you call it a season, if you will. But
Mhm.
in Ireland, and we took 6 vets from there. Well, actually, we took 5 U.S. vets, and we had one vet from the Royal British Army, a medevac nurse who joined us in Kilkenny, Ireland, and it was myself, Zach Malloy from the Nixons, former Voice singer Austin Alsop, and a few other really good Texas songwriters in the country, alternative country music scene here in
Mhm.
Texas. And we went to Ireland and this beautiful castle setting. We heard from all of these vets their stories over the course of a early morning, and uh, then they paired us up, songwriter to vet, and with their journaling and telling their story, we helped them compose and write a song on day 2, where we start to write the songs together. Day 3, we performed the songs that night at this beautiful theater called the Set Theater in Kilkenny, Ireland. And if you don't know, Kilkenny, Ireland is like the we call it the Austin of Ireland. It's like their music capital. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's all
wow.
pubs and very pubby, but they love music and they love rock music there specifically. They also love country, a lot of country. But so we got to perform these songs. We got to write songs. So I co-wrote a song with Zach for this documentary, and also performed because I was the only bass player, so I performed with everybody that night. But I will tell you, you know, it was really, I didn't know I was going to be healed. I thought I'm going there to apply my craft. I've got a job, dude. I'm going to write a song. We're going to help these vets. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I just come in there to apply my craft the best way that I could. And then you find out, you get in like these stories are heavy. These are real problems. Like the vet that I got paired with got shot in the face in Afghanistan on his last day of deployment, a young kid. He's
Oh my
35
God.
years old right now. You know what I mean? I'm 47. He's a kid still. You know what I mean? Got
Yeah.
shot in the face. And to see him tell his story, his body posture changed, his eyes glossed over, and we're just like, it's like he was there reliving it. Not even couldn't even probably see us in the room if he tried. He was there reliving it, telling us that story. And this was a room full of you know men, rock stars, big country artists, and we're all just like bawling our eyes out this whole time. So like a whole week in Ireland, all we did was cry. But it was the most beautiful thing because at the end of it, um, this vet, his name is Keon. He got on stage and he sang his song with. He's not a singer, He got on stage. He sang his song with us, in hopes that somebody will hear it and down the road, maybe he'll help another veteran. And the beauty behind this is we get to go to Nashville and record all these songs in November, with Zach and everybody. You get to bring the vets back, and it's a whole follow-up thing. And uh, all of the vet stories and their songs were equally as powerful and just a tremendous experience to be able to go and that's really what it's all about. We say like when words fail, music speaks, and that is really it heals. Like I said, I'm only still doing this because I truly believe that if I didn't have music, I wouldn't be alive today. You know what I mean? So
I'm sure it's real therapeutic for these guys too to do this. I was just thinking about I've been reading a lot about how they're starting to use like mushrooms and MDMA and stuff to treat PTSD, and I don't want to go too deep into my advocacy for that on for legal reasons
yeah,
on live stream, but I think that's amazing. It's great that as a country we've gotten to that point where it's like, hey, there's valid uses for this, and it can help people.
I think some of the psilocybin, obviously now that there are some legal states, they're able to do it. Opens up market, it opens up money for research. And unfortunately, in America, or fortunately, I don't know how you look at it, the FDA's got to get involved, and there's got to be research, and they can't research something that's federally illegal. So,
Yeah.
as we start to break down those walls and start to accept that this is medicine, I think we're going to see more and more of that, and hopefully, it's something that we can protect. I'm a big pro cannabis proponent. I hope it's something that we can also protect and not see it be corporatized and taken over and Monsanto'd and everything else. But
Yeah. Totally
that's a whole other rabbit hole we could go down.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I was just thinking, man, if you had told me 10, 15 years ago, or as a teenager, where we'd be at with weed now, like I live in LA, I get deliveries. I just like call someone, hey, bring me over a half ounce of your best kush. It's like, it's beautiful.
It ain't that much different here in Texas either. You know what I mean? Don't
Austin
let
is
that
great.
fool you,
I didn't know what the legal landscape's like outside of Austin, though.
Yeah, I mean, there are people more lax about it, but don't be doing stupid shit. You know what I mean? And I mean, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Right.
And
But most
that's
cops
just
will
how it is,
probably
but-
let you slide if you're not a jackass.
Exactly. I've definitely been pulled over, and I'm tattooed. You know what I mean? And got face tattoos. I've been pulled over smoking a joint and just been like, hey, you just do that at home. You know what I mean? It's in the future, they're going to have a way. They're going to try to get you on a under the influence breathalyzer thing. That's how they're going to make their money. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But currently, there's no way to really test that. So, but I don't want to go too politically down that rabbit hole, but I definitely don't want, obviously, there's a lot of Californians that live in Texas now, and a
Yeah.
lot of the California people that came to Texas, they came to Texas because of our laws and our freedoms that we have.
Yeah.
But um, you know, they contradict a lot of people's other values more than I'm the type of person, and most people in Texas you will find are live and let live.
Totally.
I'm gonna do me, you do you. I don't
Very,
give a rat's ass. You know what
very
I mean?
libertarian.
Yeah, very libertarian. Not the super, crazy right side people that you would expect to believe, but
Totally.
at the same time, there's that Austin has that extreme left side. But what I'm fearful of uh, is that we do something stupid with our governor here in Texas to the point to where we to gain freedom to this we give up something else, and I don't want to do that. I would rather just wait till the feds go, okay, enough's enough, and then
Yeah.
Texas will make a decision at that point, as opposed to vote for somebody just because they want to free the
Because they,
weed.
yeah, I feel like money talks with any of this stuff, and there's enough money behind cannabis now. It's enough of a big business that it's the snowball is unstoppable. It's the
Yeah,
boulder. It's eventually going to be federally legal.
our politicians here are involved in it. I know, Greg Abbott's he's involved in a lot of the medical marijuana. But they got their foot in it, but they're going to try to make their money, and it is going to be very money driven. You know, uh, Texas is one of the large. I mean, it's the largest state, and we're probably one of the largest consumers of cannabis in the whole entire country. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Both my brothers live out there, man, and people forget. Like we were just talking about, Dallas has this incredibly robust music scene. Houston is like a lot of the best rap of the last 20 years comes out of
yeah,
Houston.
all
And
that all that southern all that chopped and screwed, all
yeah,
that hip hop stuff, all Houston. Except Dallas has got some R&B and hip hop artists that you don't even know about, that
Meg
are
the
popping
Stallion
off.
is from Houston too, and then you go back to like the Ghetto Boys and Scarface. Like
Yeah,
Texas is
for
legit,
sure.
man.
Yeah. I love it. My brother, he's passed away. My brother was a hip hop producer. I focused on rock. My brother did hip hop, and so I got a lot of good hip hop history, from my younger brother. We were
Yeah,
really into like 3 6 Mafia and like
hell
Goody
yeah.
Mob back in the day. A lot of that dirty South stuff. You know what I
The
mean?
South, man.
Yeah.
Outkast was like one of the
Outcast is
first groups that, I mean, they're obviously from Atlanta, but it's like
yeah,
that dirty
same.
South style. Like,
Yeah. My first kind of band was called Camp Wisdom, and we were modeled after like a Outcast, Goody Mob, The Roots. We were a
yeah,
live
good
instrumentation,
stuff.
two MCs. This is like in that new metal, 311 kind
Hmm.
of era of the 90s and Limp Bizkit and all that stuff. But we were doing it, more Southern hip hop style, like Stankonia, I mean, all that stuff. At AT Aliens, we were really big into all of that, and that's kind of I was playing guitar back then.
Sure.
I was
And stuff has blended so much. You look at guys like Jelly Roll, for example, who is like basically country, hip hop, R&B, pop rolled into one.
yeah.
It's like it's a beautiful time, man. It's
Yeah, I have a 23-year-old daughter who is, I've been secretly, building her album and putting her together for the last couple of years, and she kind of falls into what we call y'all alternative, which is
I like
is
that.
it's
Y'all too.
country, but it's really alternative, and it's kind of like you take a little bit of Billie Eilish and you mix in a little Miley Cyrus, and then you throw in a little bit of you know gosh, I mean, pick one of these Disney, Olivia Rodrigo, and all these
Hmm.
other, and it's just kind of a combination of all these different elements. And I tell you, the fun thing about writing songs with my daughter um, is this, going out of the box. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, Messer is very much in a box. We were like, we want to be on the radio. We want this box to go in here. We wanted to stay, you know, I feel like we did a good job creating our own sound, but we definitely stayed in a box, which I'm very aware of, But
Hmm.
I think the new box is definitely no box at all, and that's where you're starting to see like um, different song arrangements. You know what I mean? Like how many song arrangements? You know, how many times can we redo a Beatles arrangement? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Pop
you know,
format.
now it's like I'm always was like, don't bore us. Get to I start if song starts with a chorus, I'm in. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
but it's been real fun to lyrically to write with her because the kids today, the millennials, like their lyrics are very much literal and very descriptive and not rooted in metaphor so much as they're very literal. And she has a really great way of being creative with her melodies and her timing and rhythm and still twisting rhyming words together that don't rhyme, but they somehow she manages
I love
to
that.
pull it off. And so as dad and dadinger and dad the producer, I try my best to kind of like I'm just trying to like as she's tapped into whatever universal thing she's tapped into, I'm trying to just like run around and try to catch as much of it as I can without changing up the integrity of it too much. And so it's been real exciting from a production standpoint and something I've written. It's been a lot of fun. She only started doing music like 3 years ago. She decided she wanted to do the business. I said, all right, let's go. So
That's so cool, man. I mean, I'm someone. I mean, I listen to a lot of metal, but I just love music in general. And a lot of
same.
my favorite artists of the last couple of years have been like female pop artists, like Lana Del Rey,
Oh,
or Billie Eilish, or
yeah, I'm a huge Swiftie. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
mean,
Taylor
talking
Swift
about
is
being
fucking
being
badass.
emotive, like that Lavender and Haze album. I mean, I've listened to that whole thing and cried from top to bottom on it.
I've I've been a
Sia
fan. I've been a fan
is
since 15, but I think it's fucking gangster as fuck what she just did, re-recording her old albums so she has the fucking rights to them. I
yeah,
was like, that is goddamn
yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if anybody can do it, she can do it, and I could definitely, um, I mean, she is the queen of the music industry right now. It's amazing. But you're right, like there are so many like the female artists and music has really like they've really just like
Taken
come
off.
out over the last 10 years. A lot of people credit Taylor with that. My buddies that worked at guitars said Taylor Swift is single handedly selling more guitars than anybody else. You know
I
what I
believe
mean?
it.
It was just incredible to see. And I don't know if you get on TikTok much, but
Yeah.
uh, every time I scroll and there's another 7-year-old Chinese girl just shredding, I'm like, I might as well just quit now. It's like kids today and they're playing, like baby metal, those girls. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some young kids on there that are just like, it's just mind blowing that the talent. I'm not one of those people who like I didn't have talent. I didn't have supportive parents. I had the typical grow up garage band, smoke weed. Parents did, I mean,
Right.
get away, all that stuff. I later had better relationships with my parents, but I didn't have like, I surely didn't have a dad with a studio, um, and going, hey, you
You want
don't
to
need a
record?
job, you don't need college. Let's go in here and go into the vocal booth over here. Let's record and if I'd have had that, watch out. But um,
That's an
you know,
awesome thing to pass on to your kids. When you talk about these like proteges, though, it's my son plays guitar, and I'm like, he's already better than I am.
sure,
Of course, but he actually said this, and I was like, oh, that's a good point. He's like, I have YouTube though. It's like I can go find these songs, and YouTube lets me slow it
yeah.
down, and
When
like,
I tried to explain to my daughter I had to wait for the Guitar World magazine to come
yes,
out with
yes,
the song
the
on it,
tablature.
the tablature. I had to slow the tape down. I myself, like I said, I just that trip to Dublin, I had to learn 24 songs that I had never played on bass before because I'm a guitar player first and foremost. You know what I mean? I am a bass player, but I have the tattoo. That there it is. But uh, I had no, I'd never played "Sweet Child of Mine" on bass before. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I used Rocksmith on YouTube. I just put in "Sweet Child of Mine" Rocksmith, and just like the video game, but someone's already put it on YouTube. I go over to the settings, I slow it way
It's
down.
so
I
amazing.
Yeah, it's like it's brilliant. And you know, speaking of learning and being older like ourselves, I was talking to somebody the other day. We're talking about um, their grandfather's got really bad Alzheimer's and how like breaking down how that's like the connections in the brain are just deteriorating over time and those connections not making contact. And I think that like so often uh as adults like we stop learning. I really credit music with helping me continually trying to learn and I'll tell you, when I was younger, maybe your son will relate to this message or not. When I was younger, I didn't have the discipline to really um, understand what learning was. And now, having gone through the process that I've been through over the last 15 years in my music journey, I've learned how I learn. Does that make sense? I
Yeah,
know that if I do this many times
you'll
and I
retain it.
hit, I'm going to retain it because I'm going to create a actual connection. I call them rut or groove in my brain from here to here to connect all the muscles to here. Like it's all muscle
Muscle
memory.
memory.
It's all muscle memory.
Yeah.
And you do something exactly the same 10,000 times or however many times the number is, it's not 10,000 times for me anymore. Thank God. It's like 3 or 4 times. But if I do it, I I got it and I can retain it and that's it. And I never had the patience really for understanding. And then also, everybody's playing with clicks these days for the most part, so kids have a better sense of time.
Hmm.
Um, and I think when you have a consistent sense of time, you're going to make a consistent muscle memory that's going to be tighter and more, you know, laser focused.
My dad, grandpa, told my son when he started playing. Eddie Van Halen said, "Play to a click." But to your point too, with the muscle memory thing, I actually have a brother who is a trainer in Dallas for Equinox,
Same.
and he use it or lose it. It's the
Yeah.
same thing with muscles. If you don't use your brain, if you're not, it's gonna atrophy. It's gonna
It is.
deteriorate.
That is so true. So I feel like, as long as I'm continuing to learn music and continuing to, expand, uh, I feel like that's key to good mental longevity for
You
sure.
look at a guy like Keith Richards, right? Like that guy's still
Come on.
around,
Look at
still sharp
Ozzy.
as
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then like maybe like the Pope or someone that's similar to his age who's like already dead. It's kind of like I
Oh,
don't know,
look
might
at
be
our
something
look at look at our president. Isn't he the same age as Keith
like,
Richards? Aren't they the same age?
yeah, I think so. You might there might be something to this sex, drugs, and rock and roll thing.
There is. I tell you, there definitely is something to. I watched a documentary on Netflix last night about living to be 100 because I used to want to live to be to 100. I don't know if I want to live to be 100 or not now. My knees are bad. I need new knees.
I feel
But
you.
uh, turns out that's where all the bass playing is. All the pocket, it's in the knees, and I've been wearing my knees out. But uh, they say that Okinawa, Japan, has the highest concentration of centurions anywhere in the world.
Hmm.
And they try to figure out what they attribute it to. And is it the food? It's probably a combination of all these things. The food,
Sure.
but really, it was just the way of life. It's just like, you know, uh, not stressing out. And like I said, I don't want my kid to go to the traditional path of college. Like you don't need this.
Yeah.
Fuck this 10 to 9 to 5. There's other ways to make it. And what do we really need? Do we really need a bunch of excess of stuff, or can we live more minimalistically and just use what we need right now and just have a happier life because we're creating constantly? I think that's really the key to happiness or longevity or anything. Is just find something that you're extremely passionate about and just figure it the fuck out. You know what I mean? Just figure it
When
out.
Yeah, when you get to our age too, you realize like life's way too short to spend time doing things that you don't enjoy, that
I
don't make
God,
you
I think
happy.
about the years I wasted. I used to be in the construction business. I think about the years I wasted, you know, banging on rocks and chisels and hammers and like, what was I doing? You know what I mean? I should have been focusing on something, that's more has more a profound, purpose. You know what I mean? I know like I'm I know because I get the messages, people emails all the time. I know people are affected by our music, and that right there is enough for me. If I never get super rich and I just get that, then I am rich. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, it's so crazy because I watched this. I think it was Rob Zombie was on Howie Mandel's podcast, and he said something so profound because Howie Mandel's like, "You've always kind of done what you want, right?" And he goes, "Yeah." He's like, I saw all my friends around me would get on a label or something and they do something and they change. And then it's like, it never works. And people realize as soon as you're doing something that's not you, that it's not you. So he's like, I always just was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do what I want. He's like, you know, the label came to me and they're like, hey, I don't know if you should name the album this. And he's like, all right, I don't give a fuck. If you don't like it, kick me off the label. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I love that attitude because I wish I had thought that way. Because same as you, I spent my years sitting in the tie in a fucking boardroom, you know, and it's like, well, what am I doing? I hate this.
Yeah, I spent a lot of my year trying to be the cool guy and always being too cool for school, and you know, realizing you know, much later in life that you know, none of that shit really matters at the end of the day. You know what I mean? It's how you treat people, and you know, that really is the measure of all of it. And you know, life is short. You know what I mean? This life is meant to be enjoyed. It's not meant to be slaved away in a cubicle or an office. But I'm happy to make music for those people who are doing that. You know what I mean?
And you said something earlier about creating uplifting music too. It made me think of this John Coltrane quote. John Coltrane said, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, I don't remember word for word, but he said something about, he's like, I want my music to uplift people because people are all fighting battles. They have a rough enough life. When you put my music on, I want you to feel good. I want it to be an escape from all that, like an uplifting thing. And if you can do that for one person, man, it's more valuable than any construction you can do.
Yeah. I used to try to justify. I built swimming pools for a long time before I even did hair, you know, and that's why I got into doing hair, because I thought, well, I'm going to make
man.
I'm going to make people do hair, you know what I mean? I'm going to. That's a long story. How I was dating a girl who was young, and
that's like such a polar opposite career. Like
it was for me, but I needed that in my life. Like I needed something. I was coming out of a bad divorce with my first wife, my daughter's mother, and I needed a change that was like so dramatic, so different, so that I could just like start over my life, because I felt like I needed that. So I changed everything. I changed, you know, my name, what I'm going to go by, you know, and then I'd asked her. I sold my construction company and was able to like what do I want to do with my life, you know? And the girl I was dating was like, I always wanted to be a hairdresser. I'm like, let's go to fucking hair school, you know? So I bought us two first class tickets to Tony and Guy. And my daughter recently graduated from Tony and Guy too, because it's a good skill to have. You always fall back on as a hairdresser.
Trade is always
something.
Not to interject, but CJ from Drowning Pool, guy's a fucking electrician. I mean, he's
yep.
like,
yeah. Trades. That's where it's at, kids, not college. But you know, the doing hair, I thought, you know, I would make people feel good, and you know, but I was one at a time. You know, music, I feel like, all right, now I can maybe do a lot more with it. But you know, when I was doing pools, I was like, these people are, you know, spending more time with their families, and I'm, you know, this is good. I'm helping people do this or that. But you know, I was chasing money. You know, that's really what was motivating me, which is why I was in that business. And it was just all about, you know, I had the house, I had the car, the trucks, I lifted trucks, I had a fleet of this, and you know, but I wasn't happy with any of that. And you know, through doing hair again, through continuing playing music, and I found myself again, and have, you know, completely reinvented myself over the last 25 years to really lean more into this. And the older I get, the more I'm like leaning. I'm getting more face tattoos soon. You know, I'm going to lean even harder into this. And,
I'm with you 1,000%.
Yeah, it's just there's no. I'm so far. I'm in it too deep now. There's no turning back at this point, and I don't want to turn back. But to go back to what you were talking about with Rob Zombie, is that all we really have is authenticity now. And I think that that's the key to any artist in any genre, is just being authentic. Because the younger generations can see through. They already know what to look through the bullshit. They're already skeptical coming out the gate. They have already heard, you know, like my dad and your dad probably both. They would not believe that the news would lie. Why would it's in the news? Why would they lie to me? It's in the newspaper. I'm like, Dad, that newspaper is owned by, you know. Would never. I tease my mom all the time. Like, do you honestly, Mom? I'm like, she smokes weed. I said, do you honestly think they landed on the moon? She goes, yeah, they did. Oh, come on.
We had this conversation, man, because I just watched this Joe Rogan thing where he had this guy, and they were talking about how this is so crazy. So there's this there's this, you may or may not have heard this, but there's this area in Laurel Canyon here called Lookout Mountain, and it's supposedly where they did all these like military, videos, and so this guy's like breaking it down how the anti-war movement of the 60s, all the like rock stars that were like Frank Zappa and Jim Morrison, their parents were all military intelligence. And this guy has this whole theory about how the druggy anti-war movement was ginned up by military intelligence to make people support the war, because they're like, oh, all these hippies are against the war. And before that, the anti-war movement was like clean cut dudes in suits and stuff. And I'm like, holy shit, that is great. Jim Morrison's dad was the head of the Navy. I was like, that is insane.
That is, I gotta go watch that. I gotta watch that. I love Joe Rogan. I don't think I've seen that one, but that's a great theory, because like, I'm with you. Like I at a point where I believe nothing. You know what I mean? Everything is, it's too easy, especially AI.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's made me question stuff like you're saying that I used to believe wholeheartedly. Like the Tiananmen Square thing. I just found out that was totally like a staged op. And I was like, what? Really? Holy crap!
I mean, TikTok has me going, are we on a flat Earth? I mean, it's like, I don't know. Huh?
You gotta be careful. Sometimes I gotta like reel it back in. I'm like, okay.
I'm with you. I'm with you. All right.
That might be a little too
long. That's the thing is that as an artist, I think staying, authentic and it's something I try to instill in my daughter as as an aspiring artist as well, is to just be yourself. And I wish somebody would have told me to be myself at a much earlier age than when I figured it out. So
the end of that Rob Zombie thing, to your point too, was if you be authentic, the money will eventually come.
Yeah. That's the thing is that, listen, I've never like with Messer, we say all the time, it's like we're not here to make money, we're here to make music. And if we make music, maybe the money will follow. I mean, I don't know. I don't care. You know what I mean? I only survive to make more music. And as soon as I get money, I just make more music with it again. So as long as I just see it as a tool, we're not looking around my studio, but there's a lot of guitars and a lot of gear in here that you're not seeing. I do spend some money on gear, but it's just to make music.
You're just reinvesting.
That's all it is. Yeah, it's all it is.
Well, I saw this. I saw Nuno Betancourt, and he said something on Rick Beato. Do you know Rick Beato?
Oh, I love Rick Beato.
He's amazing. Yeah. But he had this quote that stood out so much to me because about back to the authenticity thing, and he said, if you start doing stuff that isn't you, then you feel like shit because you're faking it. You're like doing something that isn't you. And he's like, I'd much rather like do me and not be accepted than like be faking it and then still not be accepted, because there's a chance that people still don't like it even after you fake it. So it's almost like there's no downside to just being authentic, really.
I think, and I guess to speak on that, because like especially like when you get into Nashville, or even what some of the stuff I do outside of Messer, which is so much songwriting for other people, there's something that to be said about it. Some artists are, if you can't convey and emote, somebody else's words as an artist. I mean, you got like Morgan Wallen doesn't really write shit, but he's able to sing the fuck out of those songs. You know what I mean? That's really what it's about, to be able to convey those words. And then when I'm writing with somebody, or even like when we're like for writing with Messer, for Messer, these songs are not written. They're written for Messer. They're tailor-made specifically for Derek to sing them. And so even though he may or may not have a huge hand in some of the lyric content of it, they're written for him to be able to deliver. And he understands that as a performer and gets it, and is able to have an authentic performance because of that. So, but there's definitely times where you see it, we're like, this is not very authentic. You know what I mean? And people see through that.
One of my heroes is Max Martin, who I'm sure you know who he is.
I mean, you're talking my language.
Yeah,
of course, he's the greatest. Yeah, he's the greatest.
Yeah. Right. So it's like that guy he's had a #1 hit, and he's worked with a ton of artists that I love, and I know that they might have contributed at some level, but I don't fault them for going to someone like that to craft like a
I think that's what the earmark of a great artist too is, also knowing, honestly, I'm a big collaborator. I like to collaborate. So I said when I
That's the best part of music.
I went to this mixing guy over here and Mayor Applebaum over here. This guy, because I appreciate everybody's own skill set in their particular field, and we really want to have handcrafted songs that are crafted by craftsmen that are really, will hold up long after I'm gone. That's the goal. So, you know, well, Zach Malloy, for instance. So while we're in Dublin, he gets his, I don't know how many number ones he's got. He's got so many now. But that current Aaron Jones single, which Aaron Jones from Austin area, but his song that just hit number one this last week was written by Zach Malloy. So Zach actually working with him with Operation Rock the Troops was cool because he actually teaches a college songwriting course back in Nashville.
Oh wow!
And he's written over 300 songs last year. I mean, Shine Down is last number one, Atlas Falls, Aaron Carrie Underwood. I mean, you go and look up the songs that Zach has written for other artists, and oh man, this guy's, he had big hits with the Nixons, you know what I mean? But his hits that he's had with other artists have far exceeded any of that.
Wow, that's so crazy. I never would have made that connection. I know a couple of the Nixon songs. I was not a huge fan, but
sure,
that's very cool that he was able to transform into like a songwriter, like a professional, like for hire.
Yeah, he did. He was one of the first ones. He left LA and moved to Nashville early on before the big exodus to Nashville out of all the artists that moved to LA. Like my buddy Andrew co-wrote and produced that Jelly Roll album, Andrew Bayless. We toured with him and his band. He was in another band with the drummer from Attack Attack and former singer from Attack Attack called Nine Shrines, and we did some tours with them and Non-Point back in the day. But they were from Columbus, Ohio. But Andrew, I remember after that tour, he's like, "Yeah, I'm moving to Nashville, so I can get home." And he moved to studio in Nashville, and like a couple years later, he's like, number one song with Jelly Roll, which is just these are all metalcore guys, you know what I mean? Crabcore guys, heavy metal dudes, and like
Max Martin, Max Martin was a metal guy.
For sure. If you know Co Wetzel here from Fort Worth, from Texas, his whole band is half the guys from the metal band Fit for a King. That's who he's touring, the band that he tours with. So country and metal and all, you know what I mean? It's all the same now,
Yeah. Well, what do you guys have coming down the pipeline? Do you guys have new material coming out? Are you touring soon? Do you guys have anything that you want to shout out? We've already been on for almost an hour and a half, man.
Yeah, it happens. It's
been a good conversation.
Well, we just signed a new management deal with FM Music Management, which have like Saliva, Through Fire, Any Given Sin, Testament. I don't know. They have a bunch of artists on that roster, so we're happy to be on that team. And we're looking forward to next year's touring season to be able to get a package. They were talking about putting together a nice little. Tommy Vex is on the team as well, so maybe like a Vexed, Any Given Sin, Saliva kind of thing. Saving Abel's also, I think, on the roster as well. So we're kind of finally. This is our first. This is the most real deal we've ever had. You know what I mean? So we're excited to be working with Bob and Frank and Dino over there. And we do have other songs that are in the can just sitting here on my computer that are done. And so it feels good to have things in the tank. We have another great song we're working on currently. And we have all those Dolby mixes that we're going to be packaging back out again. And that's going to allow us to, for any bands who are listening and you want a way to make an old song new again, it's going to allow us to reintroduce some of the songs that maybe didn't get as much highlight because we didn't do a radio campaign, but were still great songs. It'll allow Spotify to see them as new again and then make them eligible for playlisting. And then obviously having them be in Dolby Atmos gives us an extra push for the editorial because there's not a lot of content coming out in Dolby Atmos. So just being first to market with that, we hope gives us a tiny bit of an advantage. But there's still a handful of songs off that album that, we wish, like I said, the ballads, like if you listen to Lay Down Your Heart or One More Time, that we'd hoped had been heard more. And they just had, they're great songs and they deserve to be heard. And
have you guys done videos for them?
I haven't, but that's part of the plan is that as we release these new songs, we'll make a new video for every release. Every release gets a video. I mean, that's kind of the package deal we do now. Is like you make the song, you get all the artwork for the single, you make the video, do the whole thing, and so I do. Unfortunately, my video dreams are way bigger than my video budget. So I'm always trying to figure out how to reel in videos. And I'm the guy who's typically like all the videos I've written, co-directed, storyboarded, or had some hand in. And it's one of my favorite things to do is to make videos because
Yeah.
it's something that and like I said, that cuts like a knife video. If you could have plugged into my brain the week before making that video, it literally looks I'd already seen that video 1,000 times when it came when the editor sent it back to me. I'd already seen it in my head because it was exactly shot for shot. And it's cool to have something that was like here. Same with music. I'm still fascinated by it. Something that was just here now is
Yeah.
everywhere. And it lives now in the universe.
One of my
It's very
favorite
cool.
quotes, Frank Zappa, art is making something out of nothing and selling it.
Exactly. So videos are fun to make. We have the next Messer song, the next original Messer song, not because we have a couple other good covers or reimaginings in the. We have some really good reimagined covers coming up, but I want to recreate scenes from the movie Office Space. Remember the movie Office Space?
Of course, of course.
Also filmed here in Texas by the
Mike
great Mike
Judge,
Judge from right
low
here in
key,
Fort Worth. Yeah.
like that. We were just talking about this the other day. Beavis and Butthead, King of the
Yeah.
Hill,
Yeah.
Office Space,
Idiocracy.
Idiocracy.
Yeah, our prophecy. Yeah. He is Lord. No, Mike Judge is amazing.
Silicon Valley too. Shit.
Yeah. So, but I want to make. I'll tease a little bit. The hook of this next song. We're not calling the song "Fuck Around and Find Out" because our management didn't want us to. But the hook of the song is "Fuck Around and Find Out." The name of the song is called "Transgression." But I wanted to recreate Office Space, but from the perspective of Milton. You know what I mean? So I want to play Milton. I want to have like Derek play Lumberg. Our guitar player Bobby, I want to have him play both Bobs. With a split screen back and forth. And we have this copy machine over here in our studio that does give us a lot of shit. So I definitely want to break this thing to pieces. But I have this idea of like finding an office cubicle setup like that, workaholic style, shooting it all in there, have paper flying everywhere, playing different characters in the cheap suit with the cheap tie, and then burn the whole place down digitally, of course, kind of like in the movie.
I mean, maybe you can find a condemned place. When you're talking about the video budget, I talked to this band a couple weeks ago, and the girl was like, I really wanted to do this like submersion tank in the video, but our budget wasn't big enough. So I started calling around, and I found a magician to rent me one. And I was like, oh, you're resourceful. That's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I have a good. That's funny you said magician. I have a good friend. Hold on, let me respond to text. Yes, on a Zoom. But he's a magician. And my PR agent, how'd the interview go? She texted me this last week. The last one I was like, it's still on it.
We're still on it.
Still on. We were for Cuts Like a Knife. He goes, hey, I have a knife throwing board. Because at one point I thought it'd be kind of cool for Cuts Like a Knife to have us all on a knife board throwing knives at each other,
Mm-hmm.
And he had one of those. That was almost the music video, was us on a knife board throwing knives at each other.
Oh,
but,
that's cool. That's a cool idea.
It was a cool idea. But yeah, we ended up doing, we actually made actual Messer means knife, and Derek started, he's a knife maker too. So we actually we just had these lasers. You can't see it, but they have it on there. It's not very good lighting.
Oh,
but
dope! It's got.
We had these made instead of a T-shirt or a CD for this deal. We had these knives made, and we got these little foam like you'd find in a model home apples. That's what we used in the video, and then we just stabbed them in there, and then we all signed them, and that's how we.
You're like, fans, do not try to bring your merch to the shows.
Yeah, you know what, we've gotten away with selling knives at a lot of our shows, but there are some places where like, and we should probably sell these knives here, guys.
Literal knife party.
Yeah, exactly. Love that song. Bring your knife.
Yeah.
But listen, man, this has been a real blast. I could sit here and talk all day long on this
Yeah.
stuff, but
Let's wrap it up.
I gotta pee.
Thank you so much, man. Honestly, come back through when you got something else to promote. Come talk to me again. Sometimes we have some of the other guys around, but everybody's got a day job, so sometimes it's just me. Sometimes it's me and Joey. But definitely appreciate your time, man, and really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, man, it's a blast. Keep up with all of us. We're Messer Band everywhere. All our socials. Go watch our video. Hit all the buttons. Do all the likes. All the downloads. All that stuff really helps us, and we really appreciate it. And thank you for spreading the messerage, as we say.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, cheers.
Thanks again.
Later.
Take care of yourself.
All right, buddy.
All right, so we are another long one. It's funny because a lot of times these interviews are usually like 30 minutes, depending on who the band is. Maybe they got it stacked schedule or whatever, but that was just a really cool natural conversation. Very cool dude. Check out Messer's stuff. I wasn't lying. I listened to a bunch this morning and it's really good stuff. It's got that very positive, uplifting vibe and just really good melodic heavy rock, in the same vein as a band like Seven Dust or Shine Down, good heavy melodic stuff. So if you tuned in, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. I think that's it for this week. Next week, Monday, we got Scott Mellinger coming in from Zayo. Me and Joey will be on. And then I'm still trying to nail down a couple other acts for next week. But sometimes these things come in the last minute and we kind of schedule some stuff. So definitely have some more stuff on the burners for you. Again, thank you for tuning in, y'all. And take good care of yourself. Take good care of yourselves out there.